Hello, a very warm welcome along to Sportsbet TV from me, Paul Alster. I'm really glad to have you joining me once again, and I'm looking forward to a classic weekend at Epsom where we have both the Oaks card on Friday, the Oaks and the Coronation Cup, and on Saturday, of course, the Derby. Now, this bulletin is going to cover both days, and I'll be tipping in 6 races across the 2 days, so get your pens and papers ready. But first, if you're new to the service, let me welcome you along. And if you haven't already done so, remember to press the subscribe button just below this screen. And then you'll be able to keep in touch with all my bulletins. It's free racing tips. We've been very, very successful. I had some terrific wins over the last 8 or 9 months, with big profits being shown overall. And indeed, our last bulletin of May, last weekend, took us to an overall profit to my recommended stakes of £10 each way, singles, and the very rare £10 win recommendations, which I'll be putting up to £20 win from this bulletin forward. And a profit of £321 on my tips last month, so that's not too bad. And certainly we've had plenty to shout about, including that fabulous treble during May, which I'm very happy to read. Paid a few bills and set up a few holidays for quite a lot of you that have been following me. So very well done. Now, a word about last Saturday. There were 4 selections. 3 of them didn't hit the target. 1 did. We had Helvetia, first of all, who ran below par at Newbury. And Frankie Dettori, not a jockey that perseveres with them too much. So once her chance had gone, she was out the back. Now, the one that I was pleased with, even though it didn't place, was Jazzy Princess in the Hillary Needler at Beverley. I thought she ran very, very well. She was outpaced on debut for the first half of the race, but then she really did pick up the bridle in the final 2 furlongs. And if you have a look at the replay, furlong up the hill towards the line to finish about 6th. And I think that's a very good effort. And I think she's probably pretty useful. And I'm looking out for Jazzy Princess wherever she goes next, hopefully over 6 furlongs at least. The other one was Zen Zero, who didn't run too badly. He was 6 in a pretty wide open handicap, but never managed to land a blow. What I'm happy to say is that my tip for Cartmel last Saturday, WB, who I recommended at 8-1, I know he drifted, and I read that some of you were on at 10 and 11-1 before he was backed all the way down to 4-1. Well, he won, and he won in really brave fashion. He was a brave old horse. WB gave us something to shout about, didn't he? And he stayed on well, really well, to win for the Gary Hammer stable. And that was really nice to make us certain of a profit on the day. And of course, adding to the profits accrued over the month of May. Well, let's move on now to this weekend's bulletin. And I'm going to start off, first of all, with 4 tips for you on Friday, because to my way of thinking, the card on Friday is better than the actual Derby Day card at Epsom on Saturday. I don't know what you guys think, but I just think that the Friday is, from a punting point of view, a little bit more attractive. Now, my first tip is in the very first race of the meeting, the 2 o'clock, excuse me, which is the Woodcote Stakes. This is for 2-year-olds over 6 furlongs. They'll be racing around Tattenham Corner here. And there are 10 runners on good ground, maybe good to firm in a few places. And quite a few of them have shown decent form. Oscula won at Brighton over 6 furlongs. He might be favourite. Derarin also has won well. He won at Ripon. And that was on debut over 5 furlongs. Then second, beaten just a nose in a good race at Newbury. So he's another interesting runner. Flaming Rib. Well, he certainly ran well at Nottingham. And Dusky Prince, a nice winner for a Cool Silk partnership that owned Jazzy Princess that I recommended last weekend. That won on debut at Brighton over 5.5 furlongs, which is not dissimilar really to Epsom. But interestingly for me, Richard Hannon, very good trainer of just about everything, but particularly of 2-year-olds, has won this twice in the last 7 years, and he runs 2 in the race, and there won't be a lot between them as far as I can see in the betting market. Zoltan Star and Raging. Now, Zoltan Star has been favourite on both starts and has been placed on both occasions at Windsor and at Chester. And I expect him to run well, but I do think Raging is more interesting. And he is trained by Richard Hannon and the mount of Pat Dobbs. Now, for me, he looks the likelier of the pair over this longer trip, this 6 furlongs. He showed fair form on the first of his 2 runs at Salisbury and then again at Bath, staying on really well. And then he won really well in that 3-runner race at Haydock last time out. Now, a lot of people look at 3-runner races and think, well, it can't be much good. He's only beaten 2 horses. But I have a feeling that the runner-up there is a pretty good horse. And the race itself at Haydock has thrown up some very good horses, including the likes of Soldier's Call and Dubai Station, who have gone on to win very good races indeed. I think that Raging is going to run a nice race here. He's got the 6 furlongs to suit. And at the time of this recording, early on Friday lunchtime, we're having Thursday lunchtime, actually, we're having to record nice and early this weekend. He's an 8-1 chance. That's a general offer for Raging. And I'd suspect that that's not going to be too far from the mark. So he's my choice to build on that good effort at Haydock, where he showed a very willing attitude. I think the trip and that uphill finish will suit. And Raging it is for me in the Epsom 2 o'clock. Then on to the 3:10 at Epsom on Friday, which is the Group 1 Coronation Cup. This is a very, very high-class race over 1.5 miles. There are 7 runners. I think there are 2 or 3 certainly that I think are going to struggle. Now, Al Arsi is odds on here. Last time I looked, he's won 4 of his last 5, and he was hugely impressive when he won at Newbury last time out in the Group 3 Aston Park Stakes. He finished on the bridle in an absolute canter. And William Haggas's horse is very highly regarded, and rightly so. I think he is probably a worthy favourite, but I'm not certain that he's the good thing. My reasoning behind it is that all his winning have come on basically flat, straight tracks. The one time he ran on an undulating turning track was at Goodwood, and that was the time that he ran poorly. I think he finished last of the 6 runners there in a pretty decent race. So for me, that just puts us kind of a question mark in the mind about Al Arsi. I'd be perfectly happy to see him win and show that he can handle all sorts of courses and terrain. But I just have that niggling doubt in the back of my mind, and because of that, I think he's opposable. Now, Pile Driver's a very good horse. He was 3rd in the St Ledger. He won the Great Voltigeur last season for William Muir, but he did seem to show a bit of temperament, I thought, on his reappearance run at HQ, leaning into and then away from the whip, and that rather put me off. He's shown a bit of a kink a time or 2 in the past, but that was a bit of a worry. And that leaves us with the 2 Aidan O'Brien runners, and they're full brothers, remarkably. Full brothers, these 2 horses, out of the same mare, of course, Japan and Mogul. Well, they're 2 tremendous horses, both very high class on their day. Japan rated 120. The winner of the King Edward VII Stakes at Royal Ascot in 2019. He then won the Grand Prix de Paris in France and went on to win the Judge Monte International at York before finishing 4th in the Arc. So he was a very, very good horse in 2019. Last year, he didn't quite hit the heights, wasn't quite the same horse, but he bounced back this season, winning on his reappearance. That was at Chester in the Ormond Stakes over the extended 1 mile and 5 furlongs, beating Trushan. Now, that was a good performance. He beat a stayer, though, and I'm just not quite sure about Japan. He may well be back, and if he is, he's a danger to all. But I think he just has a little bit still to prove, and that leaves me instead with Mogul, who is my recommendation, trained by Aidan O'Brien, and the mount of Shamie Heffernan. Now, this horse was a Group 2 winner as a 2-year-old and finished 4th in the Group 1 Racing Post Trophy. As a 3-year-old, he was 6th in the Derby, in that ridiculous Derby won by Serpentine, where they all fell asleep. And then he won the Group 3 Gordon Stakes at Goodwood, showing that he handles an undulating track. He didn't run badly at Epsom. He was just never near enough to get in the race. He was 3rd to Pile Driver in the Great Voltigeur, and then he went on to win the Grand Prix de Paris, just like his full brother Japan did the year before. He showed he can handle a quick surface as well, when I thought a very good fit in the Breeders' Cup Turf in America at the end of the season. And then this globe-trotting horse went on to Hong Kong and won the £2 million Hong Kong Vase in December. Now, the thing about Mogul is that it's well known that he needs at least a couple of runs to get to peak form. I think he's a bit of a chubber at home. I think he likes his nosh and maybe isn't the most outstanding workhorse. So getting him fit to his best racing and fighting weight is not always easy. But I think Aidan O'Brien will have him pretty close for this Coronation Cup. I think the course will suit. I think the ground will suit. I think the trip will suit. I'm assuming that after 2 runs, he's going to be just about up to full fitness. And I think he's the value option. And at the time of this recording, the best odds offered are the 7-1 each way with William Hill. And that's for 2 places, which I still think is worth having an each way bet on. And Mogul, I think, is the value to spring a surprise and beat Al Arsi and also finish in front of his full brother, Japan. So Mogul, each way 7-1, Epsom 310 on Friday in the Coronation Cup. The third selection at Epsom on Friday from me is in the 345. This is a 1.25 mile handicap, the Kazoo handicap. Sky Defender is back. He won this last year for Mark Johnston. Horse that goes really well at the track. There's a few horses that are pretty much course specialists, including Victory Chime, who won very well and beat Sky Defender over course and distance last time out. Now, Blue Cup had a horrible run round here earlier in the season. He looked very, very unlucky and might have gone close to winning had he, well, I think he probably would have won with a clear run. But then he ran a very poor race last time out, and he might be a bit of a bridle horse. I'm not quite sure about him. Might even be sent off favourite Blue Cup, trained by David Menissier, who trained Louis Saint-Georges, the first leg of our treble a few weeks ago, but I'm not sure about him. And Dream With Me, another of the Johnston runners, 3 from 4 this term, and progressive, but he is up in class and will find this tougher. And for me, the value bet is Data Protection. Now, Data Protection is trained by William Muir. Say that again. He's trained by William Muir. Not easy to say. And Chris Grassick also trains alongside William Muir these days. David Egan, who's had such a fantastic 12 months with Mishriff and others, he's in the saddle. Now, this horse, Data Protection, likes it here. He was 4th in this race last year. He's now £6 higher, but he progressed a lot last season. In his 4 other course appearances, he's won 2, been second once and third once. So he really does like the track. And quick ground will suit him. He likes a strong pace, undulating track, and fairly quick ground. And I thought he ran a very good first race of the season. That was at Chester on May the 7th when he was a rock-solid third. I'm sure he's going to be on the premises. He hopefully will be good enough to win. Data Protection is 10-1 each way. And Sky Bet, at the time of this recording, Thursday lunchtime, are offering 4 places at the 10-1. Bet Victor also offering 10-1, but just for the 3 places. Remember to shop around for the best value. If you're new, then my advice to you is always shop around. Look at all the different firms, what they're offering. Use an odds comparison site if you wish, and try and bet with a firm that's going to offer you the SP if it's bigger than the odds you take. So you're never going to get worse odds than the odds that you're taking. And in some cases, you can end up getting much bigger odds if the horse drifts. But 10-1 available with their Sky Bet, 4 places for Data Protection, Epsom 345. And then we come on to the Oaks, always a great spectacle. The Phillies Classic over 1.5 miles, good ground, 14 runners, 5 of them trained by Aidan O'Brien. He's really, as he often does, sending the cavalry. Now, just looking at his runners here, I can't see either of La Joconde or Willow having a proper chance in this race. Divinely might improve and is not without a chance. Now, Snowfall, of course, ran away really with the Musidora, but was she given a bit of an easy time of it up front? I'm not sure, but they've always held her in high regard. So Snowfall is a danger, and I think she'll probably stay the extra furlong and a half. We'll have to see. And Santa Barbara, well, she's going to go off favourite, isn't she? I think Santa Barbara, the horse that was the huge gamble after winning a maiden in Ireland last season. For the 1,000 guineas, she was sent off hot favourite. And really, for a horse so inexperienced, she ran very well indeed, was only just edged out of third. and is bred to stay further. So there's every chance she will stay. But remember, this is still only her third racecourse appearance. I would expect she will be very much on the premises and there or thereabouts, but I just don't think there's value there in Santa Barbara. She might run away with it, who knows, but I'm just not sure about the value there. Now, Aidan O'Brien has 5 in it, but Roger Varian saddles 3. He's got Tiona, who was third at York behind Snowfall and probably will improve for that run. And he's also got Saver Forest, always a good thing to do, who was second at Lingfield in the Oaks trial. And I think that was behind Sherbet Fountain, who also runs, I think. And I'm not so sure that the Lingfield form is good enough. So those two, different chances. Tiona preferred of those two. But without a doubt, I think the first string for Roger Varian is Zayada, and she is my selection. Trained by Roger Varian, the mount of the excellent Jim Crowley, who I think pound for pound is probably as good a jockey as there is out there. Now, I think she should be an unbeaten horse. She won her first 3 all last season, including a mile listed race at Newmarket in October. And if you watch the Cheshire Oaks at Chester last month, she was so unlucky. She travelled like a really, really classy filly, travelling in behind the pace set by Dubai Fountain, just couldn't get out for a run when needed. And Chester is a track where often it is difficult to get a run. Once she saw daylight, she absolutely flew home. She was giving the winner, and people forget this, she was giving the winner £3 because of her listed success the previous season. And I'm sure she would have won with a clear run. So for me, she should be unbeaten in 4. If she had have been unbeaten, then I think she would probably be about a 5-2, 11-4 shot here. So at 11-2 at the time of this recording, each way with Bet365 for 4 places, I think Zayada is going to go very well. She'll stay. She's gone round Chester very, very well indeed. So she'll go around Epsom. Roger Varian's a class act. She's got a great jockey on board. I think she'll handle the ground without a problem. And I see her really as the horse to beat. So for me, Zayada to win the Oaks is my choice in the 4:30 at Epsom on Friday. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I looked through the card on Saturday at Epsom, and I've got to say, I found it rather disappointing, really, with the exception of the Derby and one other race. And so, indeed, I don't have a choice for you until the actual Derby itself. So you can, obviously, you'll take a look. You might find a few real diamonds in the raw there and find some cracking price winners in the early races. But I just couldn't get switched on to any of those early races. Now, let's take you to the Derby, which, of course, is one of the great races. And it's a race that makes people like me who've followed racing for as long as they can remember. It's the one that really turns us on. I remember, the Minstrel in the 70s and great races like that. Indeed, probably the best Derby winner, I would suggest, or the most impressive in many ways, was Troy back in 1979. Shergar in 81, you can go through Reference Point and Slip Anchor and then on to Generous and great horses like Galileo and such, and see the Stars, who of course won the Derby. I think it was back in 2009, and more recently we've seen some great winners like Golden Horn, so on and so forth. It's a race that brings back so many great memories, and I think that this year's renewal is going to provide us with another vintage renewal. Now, of course, Max Swiney was the third leg of our treble a couple of weeks ago when winning the Irish 2,000 guineas. He was superbly game there, absolutely superb. He's got a big chance if he stays because, of course, he saw out a mile so well as a 2-year-old. I'm interested to see how he'll handle the quicker ground, and it's a very different track to the likes of Doncaster and the Curragh. I'm not ruling out him winning it, but I just can't go with him. Unfortunately, I try to find a way to tip him, but I can't, not at the odds that I'm seeing at the moment. Now, you've got the 2 listed race winners, Mohayeth and John Leaper. They both won 1.25 mile listed races at Newmarket last time out. Both were very impressive, but have beaten horses rather inferior to those they're going to be meeting at Epsom on Saturday. I can't be with those. Now, the unbeaten horse in the field is Hurricane Lane, who won the Dante. He's 3 from 3 for Godolphin. He did it well But high definition wasn't right that day. He wasn't fully wound up. And if he was in the race, I'd back him to beat Hurricane Lane. So I can't have Hurricane Lane, unfortunately. Third Realm for Roger Varian. Well, he did it nicely, I thought, in the Lingfield Derby trial, and that has come back as a trial that is well worth keeping an eye on for Epsom these days. He beat Ardea, another Godolphin horse, and he's not without hope, Third Realm. I think that of the three Godolphin runners, One Ruler is possibly the most interesting because he was second to Max Swiney in the Racing Post Trophy, Group 1 last season, sixth in the Guineas, and he's shaped as though this longer trip is really going to suit him. And that's One Ruler, not without a chance. But I've looked at this race backwards and forwards, and if you've been with me on previous bulletins, you may have heard me mention that I think Bolshoi Ballet is probably the best bet in the Derby for a number of years, and I can't go against him. Now, I don't normally tip short price horses, and because of that, I'm going to give you an alternative as well at a big each way price. But sticking with Bolshoi Ballet for the moment, a beautifully bred colt for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. And he really is a very, very classy sort. He's won his two races this season, two big Derby trials in great style. The Ballysack Stakes over the extended 1.25 miles at Leopardstown, where he beat Flying Visit. And then he returned to the same course and distance to win the Derrinstown Stud Stakes by 6 lengths, absolutely hacked up. And most importantly for me, watch the race and watch how he quickened 2 furlongs out. It was the mark of a very high-class horse. Now, I know Willie Carson was interviewed a week or two back, and he said he wasn't sure he'd stay, but I'm pretty sure he will. I'm loath to oppose what Willie Carson said because he's ridden more Derby winners than me. Nashwan in particular was pretty impressive, wasn't he? But I don't see why he shouldn't stay. I really don't. And I think everything is teed up for him. And I think the biggest boost for his chance is the fact that having had 6 horses declared for the race at the 5-day stage or 6-day stage it is now, Aidan's just decided to dispense with the other 5 and just rely on Bolshoi Ballet. I think he thinks this horse is going to take a hell of a lot of beating, and I agree with him. Now, at the time of this recording, 11 to 10 are now the best odds on offer, and I would recommend that my win bet, which is to £20 in my stakes, is the recommendation for Bolshoi Ballet. I think he'll be very, very hard to beat. But if anything goes wrong, and sometimes they do in racing, sometimes they do at Epsom, where you can get into all sorts of trouble, although with Ryan Moore on, I'd be hopeful that wouldn't be the case. If anything goes wrong, there is a horse who I think is open to a lot of improvement, and that horse is Southern Lights, who's trained by Joseph O'Brien and the Mount of Declan McDonough. Now, if you watch the race at Leopardstown last time, won by Bolshoi Ballet, you'll see Southern Lights starting to pick up really well, coming past the 2 furlong from home marker before running into a wall of horses, being switched inside and unable to get through. Indeed, his jockey had to almost stand up in the irons. I'm absolutely certain that Southern Lights would have been second, probably 4 or 5 lengths off Bolshoi Ballet. And I think he's open to a bit of improvement. He should come on for that run. He's bred to stay as well, as far as I can see. And so at the time of this recording, 22 to 1 each way with Ladbrokes, I think is a value each way bet if you're not prepared to step in and take the short price about Bolshoi Ballet. So it is Bolshoi Ballet 11 to 10 for the win. And I'm each way 22 to 1 with Ladbrokes for Southern Lights. Let's hope it's a great derby. I'd love to see Bolshoi Ballet win. And maybe for the forecast, who knows, Southern Lights. We'll have to wait till Saturday afternoon to find out. And then one other for you, and it's the very last race of the meeting, the Epsom 550 on Saturday, a 6 furlong handicap. I'm not going to go through all the other runners in this race. It's a very competitive heat. But what I am going to say is that I think Kimai 5, trained by Joseph Tuitt and ridden by the champion jockey, Oisin Murphy, is going to go very well. He's not got a great strike rate as far as wins are concerned. He's only won 3 of 38 starts. But this horse, who's equally good at 6 and 7 furlongs, has to have decent to quick ground to show his best form. And that's what's going to be in store for him on Saturday. Now, even though He's gone 20 races since his last win, which was at Goodwood over 7 furlongs in May of 2019. He's run lots of really good races in defeat, and none of them better when just touched off and beaten ahead in the Stewards' Cup. At Goodwood last season, he was beaten by Summergand, and that was an excellent effort. Now, the horse was off for 203 days over the winter before reappearing at Goodwood on May the 1st over 7 furlongs. I thought he ran a tremendous race. He was third there, and he gave every sign that he would improve for the outing. I think he just probably blew up a little bit in the last 150 yards. He will be spot on. He likes the track. He loves undulating tracks, and he's going to get that at Epsom, of course. And he's got the champion jockey on board, Oisin Murphy. Now, because it isn't one of the major races, and because I'm recording this at Thursday lunchtime, I can't find any prices whatsoever. So I'm just going to give you my estimation of what the price will be. There are 3 previous last time out winners in the field, so I think that's going to make the market a bit. And with so many decent handicappers, I assume they're going to bet 4 to 1, 9 to 2 the field, unless I've missed something. So I'm going to suggest that, given the fact he's on a 20 race losing run, that 10 to 1 or better will be available. So let's say 10 to 1 each way. And with the number of runners that are declared, I think 4 places is going to be freely available. So Kim I5 for me, 10 to 1. There'll be plenty of bookmakers offering 4 places, even though they're on the 16 these days. They're looking to try and get your money, of course. And I think Kim I5 will run very well indeed. He's the second of my recommendations for Derby Day. So that's it. A fairly long bulletin taking in both days of the Epsom Derby meeting. Keep your bets sensible, enjoy the racing, and let's hope that we get some proper runs for our money and that the classic races and the Coronation Cup produce some really high-class performances to savour. I'm going to be taking a break next weekend because it isn't the greatest of racing, and I'm keeping my powder dry for the following week at Royal Ascot, when I'll bring you bulletins for each of the 5 days, starting off with the first bulletin on the Monday for the first day's action on the Tuesday of Royal Ascot week. So a lot to look forward to. But for now, from me, Paul Alster at Sportsbet TV, I wish you the very best of luck. Enjoy the good weather, enjoy Epsom, and let's hope we have a few nice winners this weekend. Best of luck.